Hi, the next video I'm planning on will take you on a journey, my journey, in my early years when I was just 17, and I'm going to take you to the Bridge Inn and talk a bit about the Bridge Inn and Fisher's Bridge Mills. I brought you in here today by the fire because outside it's pretty cold. It's been just above freezing all day. It's the 27th of February 2018, and I've had the fire alight here today most of the day, and I thought, well, I'll do a little bit of an interview sat by the fire, and what will follow will be my tour around the Bridge Inn and a little bit about its history and my history involved, spanning over 50 years, and I hope you enjoy it. So if you like the video, subscribe please, and I'm not going to ask you to give me the thumbs up because it don't really matter too much. Anyway, as you can see here, I have an engine up there, look, and for the children, a clown. You might ask why. Well, it's a long story. Anyway, it's nice to sit by the fire, isn't it? In the depth of winter. I was cooking some roast chestnuts yesterday, but they weren't very good. It was past their best. I do like to roast my chestnuts this time of the year. Well, Christmas time really. But they did give off a nice smell. We're expecting snow tomorrow. Quite unusual for us at this time of the year in Devon. But we've got a big high set over the country and cold Siberian winds coming down from the east. Not very warm at all, but lovely in here by the fire. Anyway, enough of my waffling. Enjoy the video. Well, here we are. We've arrived at the top of the hill, and as you can see, the chimney of the bridge inn at Topsham. And there we go, down the hill, and you can see the bridge inn in all its glory. Very distinct in its pink livery. And this is the bridge inn at Topsham. On the other side of the river, as just out of view, is Fisher's Bridge Mills. The site of the bridge inn at Topsham has, for at least the last 2,000 years, and probably long before that, a vital part of the local connectivity infrastructure around the River Exe estuary, situated where it is. A route from Exeter to the sea and along the coast to the east of Devon, and particularly Beer, where the quarries have been in operation since Roman times, sending their stone to places all over the world, the inn would have almost definitely been an important feature for travellers coming along the East Devon coast on their way to Topsham Quay. Whilst we know records show a mention in the Domesday Book of its existence, I feel it must go back much further into history, and many thousands of years as a dwelling, before the bridge was built here in stone. There would have been at least a ferry or wooden bridge. It was when I came to Topsham over 50 years ago, at the tender age of 17, when I visited the pub for the first time. The landlady at that time was Mrs. Philip.Charles. Her husband Norman and her had taken over the inn some years before, and they had a relative living there known as Uncle Bill. When I asked for a pint of beer, Phyllis's response to me was, "We only sell it to newcomers in half pints." And although technically I was an underage drinker, I was by then a seasoned matlow, and assured her I could handle a pint no problem. It was a Saturday night, and becoming very lively. People were being packed into the front room, the one by the road, until all the seats were taken. A darts match that had been going on came to an end, as it was too busy to carry on playing. A few pints later, and the place was absolutely buzzing. Jack the lad, as I was then, home on weekend leave, had his fill of ale and duly left at closing time, which I think was 10:30 at that time. Norman and Phyllis were great sticklers for keeping time. You got 10 minutes to drink up, and it was time to go home. I returned back to the bridge on many occasions over the following 4 or 5 years, when home on leave. When I left the Navy, I had a couple of jobs and moved to Exmouth, and it was while I was in Exmouth that I would be coming back to Topsham. When the malt scoop in White Street closed, which had become my local, I went to the King's Head in Higher Shapter Street, and when that closed down, I found myself going to the Bridge Inn, and made that my local, until around 2005. Since then I have no longer been a regular beer drinker, and consequently been absent from the regular group of people who would often meet up on a Sunday lunchtime. The Bridge Inn is referred to as an institution rather than just a pub. Some customers have been loyal regulars for many years. As for myself, I have come and gone, but always enjoyed my visits. On my 50th birthday, I hired the bottom bar and had a musical celebration, and around 50 friends and family came from far and wide. A few years later, Phyllis had a stroke and some time later passed away. In fact, she died on my birthday, the 8th of March. My visits became infrequent over the following years, and in fact it's now been probably 10 years since I last went there for a drink. The Bridge Inn is a Grade 2 listed public house at Bridge Hill, Topsham in the county of Devon, England. Mentioned as a dwelling in the 1086 Domesday Book, the building was largely constructed in the 18th century of cob and stone, with a 19th century brick addition. Queen Elizabeth II visited the inn on the 27th of March 1998, her first official visit to a pub. Everybody was very excited at her visit, and there's been a lot of talk about it ever since. There have been people living at the site of Bridge Inn, as I said, from at least 1086. The Bridge Inn has been a public house since at least 1797, when it included 2 dwellings, a quay, and a salt refinery. The inn attracted wrestling competitions during the 19th century, and by 1900 there were cattle sales at the site. In 1897, William John Gibbons from Cliff St George moved into the inn. His family has been there ever since. The current licensee is Caroline Sheffers Hurd, his great-granddaughter. She is the 4th generation. Her daughter, Rhiannon, will be the 5th, and Amelia, born in April 2008, will be the 6th generation. The bridge spans the River Clyst. The River Clyst, a river of England, the river runs through the county of Devon, rising near the village of Clyst William, near Cullumpton. The river runs west and southwest, flowing through the settlements of Norman's Green, Plymtree, Clyst Hyden, Clyst St Lawrence, westward, emerging in the Clyst Valley. From there the river goes southward through Broad Clyst, West Clyst, Clyst Honiton, Clyst St Mary, and Clyst St George, eventually flowing into the Exe estuary. And as we go over the river here, you can see this is a new part of the infrastructure here. In 2011, work started on this new £500,000 cycle and pedestrian bridge crossing the River Clyst at Fisher's Mill, Topsham, forming part of the Sustrans National Cycle Network. The bridge feeds into the Exe Estuary Trail. A 50-metre elevated timber broadwalk was planned across the salt marshes and floodplain, with a main bridge spanning 28 metres across the river. The new bridge is downstream from an existing narrow Grade 2 listed masonry highway bridge. Fisher's Mill has also been in the same family since the same year of 1897. I remember Norman explaining to me many years ago how both families had taken over their respective properties at the same time. It was just prior to the centenary anniversary, so it must have been in 1997 when we were discussing it. However, back in the late 1970s, I started to keep chickens in my garden. It was because of this that I started to visit the Fisher's Mill. I could buy my chicken food in half hundredweight bags there. That's about 25 kilos in metric measure. They also sold potatoes, carrots, and a variety of other feedstuffs. I could also get a small bale of straw. It was always good produce, and I loved going there into the mill, where a very fit Mr. Fisher would be moving bags of corn or whatever around the mill. At the time, his father was still alive, then a man in his old age. So my guess is he would have been the second generation of Fisher to be owner. I can't remember if the mill workings were in action at that time. The old man was still very active, but the years of hard work had taken their toll, and he was confined to the office work mainly. They were always cheery and helpful people. I wish now I had asked more of the mill's history. The white building is the tide mill, and the red brick building a later addition of a steam mill. Eventually the family decided to convert the mill into private flats, keeping the older residents for their family home. Those are fond memories for me, and I guess I saw the last of an era over those years. Well, as predicted, the snow came, and it came with a vengeance. The last few days have been very testing for a lot of people all over the British Isles. A lot of people have been stranded in vehicles, and airports have been closed, all sorts of mayhem because of the severe bad weather. And sadly, of course, a lot of people taken ill, and a number of people will have lost their lives as a result of the bad weather. So our thoughts and prayers go to those, and all the elderly people that have been struggling and continue to struggle, of course. So stay safe out there, and hope you've enjoyed the video. Catch you further down, as they say. 7 threes, now clear.